What is your earliest memory of Star Wars?
I remember somebody telling me, and I was 5.
Okay.
Okay,
All
so
right.
we are talking earliest memories, but they are
Yeah.
vivid. They are vivid. They're true. I verified. Somebody was telling me, like another kid was telling me, and he had pictures on the wall, and it was pictures of Stormtroopers and Chewbacca. And there's
Okay.
this kind of this iconic picture of Chewbacca standing in a Death Star hallway somewhere, holding his bowcaster. And I remember looking at those pictures thinking, oh, I'm terrified of Bigfoot, but you're telling me this is the good guy. And all these guys in white are the bad guys.
Yeah.
And and he's like, yeah, that's right. And I could not wrap my head around this, but I was immediately in. Just I mean, the crisp look of the stormtroopers and all that sort of thing. It's just something about that was very appealing. And I grew up in a small town called Windsor, Colorado. And Windsor was a farm town in northern Colorado, kind of out in the on the Pawnee grasslands. And Windsor had about 3,500 people, and we had a one screen theater, and it had 4 seats in the row with 2 aisles down the side, and it probably sat 35, 40 people tops. I
Wow.
mean, this is an old
Wow.
school. Yeah, that it doesn't exist anymore. It's just a hole in the street there where there's a park bench or something. Um, but I remember trying to convince my friend's mom to take us to see this movie. She goes, "You sure that's not going to be too scary?" I was like, "No, I have to see this." And I remember professing how important it was that I had to see this movie. And I remember sitting in the theater, standing in line, and you bought your tickets at the window, right? So we stood in line, you waited for 2.5 hours or whatever it is for the next showing, and you got in. I couldn't tell you if this was the original release. I think this was the extended period, because they released the movie, it went gangbusters, and it had limited theaters. Well, then, everybody wanted the movie, and so all the small theaters got it too. So maybe it was later in the summer or something like that. I,
Right.
I would have to go back and look at the data as when they released it, but I know I saw it in a theater and being completely confused when the opening scene is there's this dude, a rebel, holding and taking focus and aim on the door that Vader and his troopers were coming through. And I think, well, that's an old guy. Is this about an old guy? And being very confused about that. And then you don't really meet the heroes till well into it. You meet
Right.
your villain right off the bat, and of course,
Right.
madly in love with Vader because children love power, and this guy is the ultimate power.
Yes.
And thought, wow, that's a bad dude, and he kills the guy in the first scenes, and that just, I have to tell you, Pulp Fiction made me want to be a filmmaker. Star
Right.
Wars made me want to be a person.